So Vinland Saga Season 2 introduces a new character, and Gardar seems to be quite the force. Not gonna lie, not sure if I'm the only one, but the intro to this episode, which is about 4 minutes long, shows a man beating a slave trader, and honestly, you can't really feel too much sympathy for him, but he kind of looked like a older Einar. I was like, oh, maybe we're looking at something that's like a time skip in the future. Nope, turns out to be this new character who has the surprising bombshell of being our girl's husband. So the love triangle that Einar is a part of, we have the whole concept of this woman is basically owned by a man who is treating our boys right, but ultimately she's more or less a sex slave, that's putting it nicely. And Einar obviously wants to free her, so it's a complex situation in a triangle fashion to begin with, and then by the end of the episode it turns out no, it's actually a square. So we have a long-lost husband, which we don't know exactly how she feels, because you don't go chasing after someone who didn't notice you if you don't love him, but at the same time, a lot of her reactions and her general mannerisms just kind of felt a little frightened, so honestly, I'm not sure how happy of a reunion this is going to be, but all we know is that this is a man who's been separated from his wife for a long time seemingly, and he's a man who's okay using whatever violence he deems necessary to get the job done. And with a new, peaceful, newly found religion, Thorfinn, I'm not sure how this reunion between husband and wife is going to go down. I really thought this was a great episode. The first 4 minutes, some of the most immersive content. I mean, if Vinland Saga knows something, it knows how to hook in a viewer in an episode. At least half of the episodes, or at least a third, well, I'll be conservative about it. At least a third of the episodes this season has had just something about like the intro of an episode that just sucks you in, and you're like, okay, I'm ready for the next beat. And honestly, with the new opening, new ending song, this second core is going to pop off. Now, I do have a full live reaction to this wonderful episode available on my Patreon, so if you do want to see my full uncut thoughts, you can head on over there because they're supporting, as this was a great episode. I mean, I'm interested to see, obviously, when Canute's forces come, how Snake and his crew are going to deal with the impossible numbers. But I like the fact that there's still some loose ends to tie up before we get there, and as being one of my favorite characters, this poor old man, I mean, out of every bit of hell that they have went through since becoming slaves on this farm, the one glimmer of hope was truly this old man. And to see him finally reach the point where he doesn't have much longer, he is going senile, he can't walk, he can't eat by himself, and for a man who is literally into such an old age, working the farm by himself before Einar and Thorfinn started helping, I mean, it's pretty heartbreaking to see. And to have the brief moment of family, it almost felt like familia, right? You have someone who is supposed to just be a slave, doesn't think of herself as anything other than that, now actually feels like she's almost like a wife or a mother in this oddball family dynamic. We're making fun of old Gramps over here because he's being too proud about eating and his stomach's growling so the giants in the sky can hear it. I love seeing everyone feel happy for such a brief moment because knowing what's coming to their doorstep, knowing that, you know, the intro of the episode doesn't kick off like that unless something bad is going to happen or has happened already. And I love how we just get accustomed to this idea that for Einar, he wants to find a way to buy her freedom. It ain't happening, there's no way. Between Master coming home knowing that he's about to lose everything, and potentially whatever this drama is going to cause to his favorite slave, like how is Einar going to buy her freedom? The only way he can hope is that in the middle of a big war, they run into the mountains and they find freedom. But it's interesting, right? One of the smallest moments of this episode, which will probably go overlooked because there was exciting action at the beginning, or at the very least emotion, and just all the other big moments, is honestly Thorfinn's newfound fondness of religion. Something I've been going back to is how if you look at Canute and Thorfinn in Season 1, they're polar opposites to where they are in Season 2. Canute used to be a very religious and honestly peaceful boy, where Thorfinn was a war-hungry, vengeance-filled monster in a lot of ways. Now we flip it around, and we have two men going after two different goals that honestly are more similar than they probably realize. Canute, who now has more or less abandoned those gospel ways, is doing whatever it takes to build that path to paradise that he sees. Thorfinn wants to do the same thing, but without violence. And I love how he's almost found a sense of relief in Christianity. And it's going to be interesting to see where his character will go, because this will be the biggest point of his character. Since denouncing violence and denouncing war in a lot of ways, it's about to reach his doorstep. And to see his new path finally get that big test of will he live by that word of not being violent. And there's obviously ways to fight without killing. It's not to say like he couldn't have a stick without a sharp end and beat some fools over the head to knock them out need be. But ultimately it'll be interesting to see how his character evolves, because this is going to be the point that will truly test him. Is he just a boy filled with violence? Or is what he said to Einar the absolute truth? This episode did a lot right. It really knew what it wanted to do, and honestly, the intro of this episode is one of the highlights of this season, if you ask me. I really think they did everything they needed to, and the VA of the Slave Master, that is, I think was one of the best performances we've seen this season of Vinland Saga. So he barely said any words. He said a couple of things like, hey, I'll be your slave, and he's kissing the shoe, but the way he was just like freaking out and grunting and like panting, it felt like someone who knew his life was coming to an end. He literally lost from the knee down on one of his legs, and obviously he was scared for his life, and it absolutely felt like that with the way his voice was being performed. I love the little moments that can go overlooked because they're just, okay, here's this big man with a sword, and clearly he's not even flinching from the home burning aflame, and he's about to kill someone. While that's obviously impactful and really engaging, honestly, the thing that tied that together was how fearful someone who used to have so much authority over him felt like just a cockroach beneath his shoe, and it was a really powerful scene. And like I said, I think the opening and endings are fantastic. I would actually say I prefer opening 2 over opening 1, and opening 1 of season 2 was fantastic. I think visually they went about it pretty much identical to the first opening, a lot of the same directing styles, but the song itself, man, like especially with the growling at the very end of the song, it was a mood, and the ending song was nothing to scoff at either. It just feels like, I mean, Vinland Saga is quality. It's quality through and through. And honestly, sooner rather than later, everything is going to hit the fan for them. Already, you could argue it has hit the fan given how it ends. We have Snake about to chase down this man. 2 of his men are wounded. They've been cut on the arm. 1 clearly dead as he's riding on his horse. It'll be interesting to see because now he's at the point where he found his long-lost wife. This is a man who clearly will cut down anyone who gets in his way. And now that he has something truly to live for, I mean, I'm not saying Snake can't kick his ass. He probably can. Snake seems to be one of the strongest characters we know of, but it doesn't change the fact that a man with nothing to lose and sees violence as the answer is someone who could definitely get a lot of people in trouble. I was honestly thinking, hey, you know what? We have like hundreds of people coming to our doorstep soon. If they bump into this random dude who apparently will kill a bunch of people, maybe he can cut down a couple dozen before he gets cut down. Now it feels like who knows what we're gonna do here. I would assume he gets captured, if not killed, but at the same time, who the hell knows anymore? Either way, this episode was definitely a surprise. I thought within an episode or 2, we might have Knut's forces on their shore. I thought maybe we'd have a reunion with Leif or something, but instead they went a completely different direction and started tying up loose ends, but bringing up new questions that I didn't even consider. And man, it's gonna be a damn shame when old Gramps does pass on, but at least he'll be senile and won't have to see the hell that comes to his son's doorstep, so I guess that's a silver lining. But thoughts, feelings yourself down below. Drop a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new around here. Be sure to ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload on the channel. And of course, as I mentioned, we do have that full live reaction available on my Patreon. So till next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.